of body flying around, bone fragments. Now, the shots that were fired in the cafe, a lot of people make the assumption based on the information on the internet that people keep saying 29 shots, 29 shots. The police said 29 shots, but no, the police did not say 29 shots. They said 29 casings were found in Seascape. It was also known, and it can be researched now, that the casings, some had already been souvenired by people that were at the site at the time.
So you're saying people came and actually collected as souvenirs, which we know humans do in ghoulish times. They collect things.
Whilst waiting around, sticky beaking, some people went and walked within the cafe over the areas. They'd taken casings, and some people returned casings, and it's suspected that others didn't. Now, Wendy Skerr, that is one of the witnesses that travels with a person by the name of Andrew McGregor, which he's a conspiracy theorist well known on the internet, and he has videos for sale, and he's gone public on the situation, as has Wendy Skerr. She has a lot of conflicting statements in what she said during the shooting. At one part she says she never seen the gunman, other parts she says she's seen the gunman come out to the balcony and start shooting at them. But one thing that Wendy does say, that she says is about 40 to 50 shots were fired in the Broad Arrow Cafe in Port Arthur. Now, Martin's known to have changed the magazine inside the cafe. Some say he left one in the breech as per military Israeli spec assassin type thing, so that whilst he was changing the magazine he'd still have one shot. I think that's pretty fanciful. I don't think anything like that happened. Nobody there could tell if there was one left in the breech or not, let alone how many was left in the magazine that he was pulling out. They wouldn't know that. And I don't think anyone was willing to ask Martin about it. There was one person there that was involved in the federal police, things like that. He was a victim that approached Martin when the shooting began, and he goes, no, not here, and was shot in the upper body. He was actually around the head. It's been said that he was part of the setup as well, part of the government conspiracy. But I think the general thing would be that the average human, if that shooting started happening, they'd either A, run, or B, want to stop the gunman in some way. There were people that tried to make a move towards the gunman and were shot immediately.
So in summary, to explain away the marksmanship conspiracy, the fact that people say he was such a good shot and that's not possible for a man of his IQ, you're saying, I suppose, that the area was quite small. He was using a weapon which was designed to be able to... for light, close quarter combat. Yeah. And that he'd had probably more practice with these firearms than most people realise. Also, in the
evidence, the average shooting distance was 12 feet.
Yeah.
That's the average. Some were less than that, some were a little more than that. But when we take that into account of 4 metres, less than 4 metres, that's 2 body lengths away. The usual person, the average person, could point a broomstick in that direction and be accurate. If you look into the evidence of the people that were shot in the cafe, the ones that were killed, the ones that were shot, and the ones that were wounded, there's a lot more that were wounded than were shot. And they were wounded from fragmentation, whether it be of wood or bone or other things. But those people that have been said they were wounded, the conspiracy theorists consider that's a bullet, but it's not a bullet.
What about the conspiracy that suggests that it couldn't have been Martin Bryant because the gunman shot mainly from his left hip, or with his left hand, but Martin Bryant was actually right-handed? How do we explain that?
Well, actually, I think it... Don't they say that Martin Bryant was... the gunman was right-handed and Martin's left?
Oh, it could have been the...
Yeah.
I've got it mixed up.
Yeah. But either way,
yep.
The Nexus magazine, which is quite into world conspiracies, and did write an article on this, on
yep.
Port Arthur, they issued a retraction stating that Martin Bryant is actually right-handed. And it's just that within his police statement, he said that he taught himself to shoot left-handed also.
Because I believe he is right-handed.
He is right-handed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
But
he was shooting with his left.
The shooting from the hip.
So why would he have taught himself to shoot with the left side of his body, with his left hand, from the left hip, if he was right-handed?
I think Martin, after reading, I'm only
speculating,
thinking
sure.
and speculating, just like every other person.
Sure.
That I think Martin fancied himself as some sort of assassin after reading his SAS books. I can't say what he'd be doing at home, but I could imagine him jumping around and pretending certain things. Now, Martin, he lived in a fantasy world. Now, when he was interviewed in the police station, he thought he was going to get bail at the end of it all and wanted some Kentucky Fried.
Now, some say that although Bryant eventually pleaded guilty, which he did, his guilty plea wasn't legal because of his low IQ. Was he able legally to say he was guilty if his IQ was so low, and if, like you suggest, he was not capable of thinking in the same way that you and I are?
They did get several psychiatrists to evaluate Martin. The prosecution kept going until they got a IQ test that was friendly to them.
Are you saying that he had multiple IQ testing after he was captured?
Yes, from varying psychiatrists. And eventually they got a reading of somewhere around about 76, 77, 78.
Which was high enough for him to be legally able.
Exactly. And they went with that one, whereas other ones did have conflicting reports. My assumption of the whole thing is that, and I've had experience with people with mental issues, including schizophrenia and Asperger's, and I would put it to any psychiatrist in the world that I don't think you'd be able to get an accurate IQ test from a mentally ill person who doesn't wish to cooperate with you in the first place. Surely the test can't be valid.
So quite frankly, that could be one conspiracy that you agree with, that it wasn't a legal...
yes.
Wasn't legally binding what he actually entered in the court. It's a shame, isn't it, that there wasn't that transparency in the process afterwards. There was no trial. There wasn't something for the public to hear the details. And still to this day, the details are very suppressed. Do you think that is the very reason why so many conspiracy theories have flourished since that time?
The problem being for the prosecution and the police is that they caught the gunman on fire outside of Seascape Cottage on the Monday morning and thought they've got him, that's it, here he is, we've got all the evidence we need. And Martin went into hospital for some 8 to 10 weeks. They hadn't considered that the gunman was going to turn around and plead not guilty. They thought they had him and that he'd plead guilty and they had all the evidence they needed. Now they've bulldozed the Seascape Cottage. They haven't taken the DNA off the items that were left outside the Broad Arrow Cafe, the can of drink and the fingerprints on the plate. They haven't gone through Martin's car. I mean, who needs to get DNA and fingerprints off a car that you know who owns it and who was seen driving it that day? So I understand the car one, but they missed crucial evidence, thinking they had a rock-solid case. As soon as Martin pleaded not guilty, the police said, well, gee, if he puts up a defence here, he might actually be able to win it.
Just finally, how do you think it makes the victims feel, or anybody who was involved in that fateful day? How do you think it affects them to know that there are so many? We've only covered 5 tonight. There are many, many more than 5. How do you think it affects them to know that there are so many conspiracy theories?
I have spoken to a couple of people associated with the situation. I haven't spoken directly to any surviving victims of that time. I think it would be disrespectful to be ringing around people's places. I have spoken to the police officer that's been accused of the gunman, the ex-police officer in Tasmania. I won't mention his name, it's been mentioned enough all over the internet. We're talking about a person that's been bandied around the internet as being the shooter, but if the conspiracy theorists looked into what the witnesses said, they said he was between 18 and 20 years of age, not around 40 years of age, so they can forget the conspiracy naming that ex-police officer as an SAS member.
Yeah, that particular conspiracy seems scurrilous at best, I have to say. Now, listen, thank you so much for coming in tonight.
There'll never be enough time to discuss this whole thing.
No. Well, this is the thing that I worry about. Will there ever be closure on Port Arthur since there wasn't a trial and since it hasn't been done transparently after the fact? Who knows about that? But listen, I do appreciate your time. You are listening to It's Time to Talk. If you'd like to give us a call, please do. 6585 2233 is our telephone number tonight.